Okay, finally. It is the 18th, and I am now. Whoop, I am now finally getting to the part 3 episode. I have it fully scripted out and planned out. Okay, I had to grab my phone. I have a list of everything I added that I need to keep track of. First things first. Inside Starter GUI, you can go ahead and add a new local script. Disable reset. Then inside this script, just write down what I do. We're gonna make a function right here, and we'll require the method and any other things we want to pass through. Result is equal to pcall starter GUI square brackets method comma starter GUI comma what's it called, an ellipse. So we're gonna pcall that, and then if there's a result, we'll break. And then run service dot stepped wait. Return unpack. Result. And then we're gonna call that function, the core call, right here. The set core method, reset button callback. That exact spelling that may specify. And false. Those three, man, I'm tired. So yeah, that's gonna disable the reset button. So after you disable the reset button, I have a... You can either stick with the old map, or you can use the new map I'm going to use. Linked in the description. I'll have a model for it. At least I should have a model for it. The first time I made the episode 1, I kind of forgot the model. This was for the thumbnail. I can just delete that and just paste the new map in. Okay. So if you do keep the old the old map, or if you have your own unique map, I would still maybe import this one to make sure everything matches up, because I have made a few changes. Like I added the mowers, the lawn mowers. I'm pretty sure those weren't in the last one. You can just steal these if you want, otherwise it's just a model. And obviously make sure you set a primary part. I haven't done that yet. I'll just do it when I eventually script the mowers. The points, I did end up adding a I don't remember what this was for, so I'll just keep it and name it extra. Anyway, the main difference, the main change I've added is inside the tile folder, I now have it sorted by rows, which is just going to be however many rows you have in your map, and then you can just label that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then inside that, each tile is labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can have this set up however you want. It doesn't really matter. It's just a way to be able to track down each tile. So I can go row 3, tile 4 inside the script, and it'll just be able to pinpoint that pretty quickly. If you want it to match exactly, it's row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. And now I have a pre-made UI set. Right here I have 3 UIs. The first one is this character select I made. I actually just used it from an unfinished game. I don't know if I'll ever finish it, but probably not. That's the character select. There's also the equip bar, the progress bar down here. And then the game modes, which is just main menu. This, you can have it be a level selector. I am going to add a level selector later. But for now, it's just going to be this. Just so we can test the game out first. Get that all working. And then also, inside of the equip bar under character select, I do have scripts in here. I'm going to delete those real quick because they won't come with your free model. There we go. Next up on the list, we're taking control of the plotting system, and also it's also going to have control over the equipped plants you have. That way you can't equip plants you don't own. And then we're going to put a table inside of here labeled players. And then you can start by adding the setup function. And then we'll just take the user ID of the player. what this is going to do is it's going to create a table for the players, for each unique player, and then we'll sort it with their player ID. So first things first, since this is looping through this table right here, we're gonna first check, sorry, this table specifically, not this entire thing, just this specific table. So every item in here, it could be like user ID is equal to data. So first thing we're gonna check, we're gonna check if the item inside of that table has a variable named ID. And if it does, we're gonna check if that ID is equal to the user ID. And since this is when they first join, I mean, I don't know why I would fire again, but we just want to be safe. We're going to set that to nil. We're going to completely destroy that table, because we don't want to have two for the player. So I'm going to call this setup function when the player first joins. If for whatever reason they get kicked, it doesn't destroy when they get kicked, and they rejoin the same server, the game is going to try and make two of the same information tables for that player. And since that's going to make things confusing for the script, we need to go ahead and just destroy it, or set it to nothing. Now, what we can do is we can create a new table, or a first table for the player if they didn't have one, which is usually going to be the case. We're going to set the ID to be the user ID, and then we're going to create another variable titled equip data. Now I will eventually make it to where this saves, especially since we'll have a locked 6th slot. And then we're also going to keep the world and level in here. Finally, now that we have our table made, what we're going to do is we're going to insert that into the player world data.players, which is going to be this table right here. And then we're going to just insert the table, specifically capitalized, so we're referencing this. This is a Roblox function provided to create a table, or alter one, I guess. Has to be capitalized. Very important, specifying that again. That function's all done though, so now we're gonna head over to the server side and create that for the player. And then I'll go ahead and destroy this. So when the player is, well actually first of all, we have these services up here. And then we're gonna do the same thing for modules. Local configuration is equal to server script service. Wait for child configuration. Local module folder is equal to server script service, wait for child modules. And then do the same thing for player world data. So now we're getting the configuration, which we don't actually use yet in this tutorial specifically. But we will have a use for it later. And then also we're going to reference this module folder right here, and then this module too. And then we'll have just other random variables down here. I like this setup that I discovered recently. So when the player is added, when the player joins the game, we're going to, before we fire this, player world data.setup, and we're going to create that player a new table, and then we're just going to send through the user ID. And then we can go and test this, and after we insert the table, we'll just do print player world data.players. And as you can see, it adds the table and all the information inside of it. And the ID is mine, so we can now look through this table and say, oh, this item right here, its ID matches to my player ID. So this must be the table associated with my character. Okay, moving over to our client script, I'll separate the functions right here into its own kind of group, just so I can navigate it a bit easier as this script gets more and more complicated. And then we have a couple of new temporary variables. Local world is equal to 1, comma, local level is equal to 1. Oh, I don't need commas here. Oh, and then we're also going to set selected plan to be nil. Okay, we're gonna also separate these into GUI variables. So we have services up here, modules right here, and then variables down here, and then of course UI variables right below that. So we're also going to get tween service up here. We're also going to get lighting service. Yep. Okay. For these new GUI variables, we're going to reference each of the new screen GUIs that we've added. So we have the main menu, script.parent wait for child, main menu. character select is equal to script.parent wait for child character select, and the same thing with the equip bar. Let me zoom in before I forget. That might help a bit with seeing these. And then we're gonna have a currently tweening variable. We're gonna separate GUI functions into a separate column right here. It's not named game modes anymore, it's main menu. Wait for child frame. Wait for child play, which we are referencing this button right here, and then when we click that, we're going to connect that to a function. We're going to check the debound we added up here, so if we are not currently tweening. Then we're going to tween our we're going to set this to true, and then we're going to tween, which we don't have that yet. Up at the top, let's see, where do I want this? Just up here, I guess. Nope. Looking at the wrong thing. Local function tween. We're going to require the UI element. The position, which is going to be a UDIM2. And then the time, which is going to be a number value. And then we're going to just do UI element tween position out sign time, whatever you have that set to up here, which we'll pass it through, by the way. And then false. And then we'll also wait the given time. And you can customize this if you want. You could do linear if you want to vary. Actually, you can get rid of tweening altogether. I just think it looks nicer. So now that we tell the script that we're tweening, we're gonna spawn this function. We're gonna tween the main menu. The main menu.frame. We'll send that. UDIM2.new 1.5, comma 0, comma 0.5, comma 0. That should get it off screen no matter what UI you use. And also, if you do use a custom UI, make sure you have your anchor point set to 0.5, comma 0.5. And then we'll just send 1.4 seconds. It's kind of like a lucky number for me. And then we're gonna reference the character select frame right here. It's gonna be character select, wait for child frame. CS frame dot position is equal to udim2.new negative 1.5 comma 0 comma 0.5 comma 0. And then we're gonna turn the visibility on for that. And then we're gonna get remote folder, wait for child. We don't have that yet. Okay, we'll come back to it. And then we are going to call the function, not the service. And we're going to send over the frame, CS frame, and then a new position for it, which is going to be udim2.new 0.5 comma 0 comma 0.5 comma 0, which is going to be the exact middle of the screen. And then also 1.4 seconds for time. And after that tween's done, we're going to set this to false. So now you can click the back button. It'll tween back. Which we're gonna go and script here in a second. The reason I spawned this function first is just so these run at the same time. And then I don't spawn this one, so it waits for this tween to finish before turning this off. And then what we're gonna do we're gonna do character select, wait for child frame, wait for child back. And then when the player clicks that, we can connect that to a function. And then we'll just go and copy and paste this over. Make a few alterations. Like right here, instead of main menu, it's gonna be character select. And then main menu is equal to, alright, I guess MM frame. Is equal to main menu dot, or main menu wait for child frame. I don't think it really matters, but I do have it to where I set the character select visibility to false. I believe it gets turned on here, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Now what we can do is, actually first of all, at the very bottom, actually, we're going to add a blur effect, set that to 0, in Lightning by the way, and then at the top, or at the very bottom actually, we're going to do main menu, wait for child frame, dot visible is equal to true. And then tween service, create lighting, wait for child blur, tween info dot new, 1 second. Then the goal of that is going to be to change the size to be 10. And then we'll play that tween. That's going to blur the screen basically. That way, when we're selecting our level and plants, it draws more focus to the actual UI elements. Now if we click play and test this out, that shouldn't be on. We have this nice, clean transition. And nothing really changes for this text yet because we haven't added the actual levels, which will be a future tutorial. Right now we're just getting the basic setup for UI. Like, you're going to be able to select your plants, and also you're also going to be able to select them up here in the equip bar and then place them down. That's the goal of this tutorial. So back in client side, we need to make sure that we specify that we are not inside the game yet. So just change in-game to false. That way you can't select anything. Okay. Now we're also going to have one more button to script, which is going to be the play button to start the level. So we'll just go and reference that real quick. But we won't actually do any scripting yet for that. First, what we're going to do is we're going to loop through each of these frames right here, all of the plants that you can select. So you're just gonna, oh, what did I just do? And these are old names, by the way. It was from my old game. And I might as well just, I'll leave the train. So if, oh wait. Make sure you add get children at the end. Okay. So if the planted is a frame, then we're gonna wait for the planted, wait for child main, and make sure you do specify planted. I know it autocorrects to plants, so try not to fall for that. We're gonna wait for this image label, which is titled main, and then we're gonna wait for the click. Then when the player clicks it, we're gonna connect that to a function. Okay, now that we have that set up, right here where I commented select level remote, we're going to go to replicated storage in the remotes folder, and we're just going to add a remote event. Title that select level. So replicated storage, wait for child. No, wait, we have a folder for that actually. Remotes folder, wait for child. Select level. Fire server, and then we're gonna send the world and the level. Over here in server side, we're gonna do remote folder dot select level. The on server event, connect that to a function. Player, world, and level. Over here in the player world data, we're going to add a new function called swap level. We're going to require the user ID, the world, and the level. Okay, now this is gonna have to be edited. Great, thanks. Steak. Anyway. Back to this. So if there is an ID, we're also gonna check if the ID is the player's ID. And if it is, we have our table, so we'll just set that. And then if the table is, after we've looped through all of them, if we don't have a table, then we'll just return false. But if we do have a table, we can go ahead and change the world and level variables and update those. There's a lot of stuff. Might as well do this. So if we ever want to get the data inside here, we can set a function for that. I do end up using this because why else would I script it? We'll just copy and paste this and get the same table. And then no matter what it is, we'll just return it. And now after the setup function right here, we're going to make a create function to create all of the rows and column data, which will be done at the start of each round. So local table is equal to this, an empty table. And then for I is equal to 1, comma, the number of rows, comma, 1 do. Table I is equal to its own separate table. Then for underscore v in pairs, player world dot play or player world data dot players do. And then we're just gonna do the same thing right here. this function isn't finished, and it actually doesn't get used this episode, does it? Okay, all of this, it doesn't matter. You can go ahead and add it in, because it'll save some scripting later on in a future video, but it's a unfinished function, and it doesn't really matter. I haven't actually figured out what I'm going to do for the placement system. This is just the equip system. And then we also don't have those done. So we'll just, we might as well just add those. Well, I don't want things to get complicated. So, since we're not using these, we'll just ignore them. So player world data dot destroy ID is equal to function user ID for underscore, and actually we just do the same thing we do up here. So just go and copy and paste that from the setup. It's gonna track down, it's gonna find the table associated with the player ID, and then it's gonna destroy it. And we'll want to call this if the player leaves the game. Game.players.player removing. Connect that to a function. Player world data dot destroy ID. And then we'll send over the player dot user ID. We have two more functions for this tutorial, which is going to be the equip plant function, and we're just going to need the user ID and the plant name. And then we're also going to need the unequip slot function. So same thing as up here. No, same thing as this. We're gonna sort through it. If we have it, great. If we don't, return two variables actually. We're gonna return nil and nil. This doesn't make sense unless you know the context for it actually. So, back to client side. Local slot, comma, equip bool is equal to replicated storage, wait for child. Wait, I have a variable for this, remote folder. Wait for child, request equip, which isn't going to be a remote event, it's going to be a remote function, which is a call and response. And it's going to be request equip. And then we're going to invoke the server, and we're going to send over the planted.name, specifically planted.name. So one more thing too, you want to make sure that all of your frame names in the scrolling frame and your plants inside your plant folder, they need to match, the names do. Capitalization, spaces, everything. Now, if the slot is equal to nil, then we'll just return end. And then if we don't find the slot for whatever reason, maybe something messed up with the slot number, or you're hacking, we'll return end. So this is going to call a function which will be received in this script right here, the server side, just after player removing. We're going to do remotes folder dot request equip dot on server invoke is equal to function. We'll get the player, which is by default, and the name. And then if not, replicated storage dot plants. And this is why you need to make sure they're named the same, because if they aren't, it's gonna mess up everything, and we'll just have to return nil and nil. Otherwise, player world data dot equip plant. Otherwise we'll return whatever the result is of this function inside of the module script. So we're gonna say, hey script, you can return whatever variables this module script, specifically this function, provides. Which, if the table is, if we don't have a table, then we don't have any results, do we? So we'll just return nil and nil end. If we do have a table, we're going to check a couple of things. For example, actually, I'm wrong. This should not be set to the overall table containing equip data ID world level. It needs to be specifically the equip data. So we're going to check if the equip data does not equal nil, then we're going to actually set the table to the equip data. It's going to go through and say, okay, this table right here, everything in here, if the IDs match and it has this table, then the table variable is going to be equal to all of this. Now what we'll be able to do is go one by one and check if there's a plant already equipped with the same name. And if there is, then we'll just unequip it, because that's probably what they want to do. So if since it's gonna loop through the number of items that are in this table, which there are 6 items, it's gonna look through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because that's how a for loop works. I is going to be 1, and then it's going to add 2, add 1, 3. So it's going to loop through each one by one. So the first time it loops through, it's going to be table 1. And then it's going to check if that is equal to the plant name. Then we're going to unequip it. And then we'll just go ahead and return the slot number, which is going to be I, and false because it's being unequipped. Now since it's returning, if this doesn't happen, the script's going to continue, because a return makes it basically end. Now if we don't have one equipped, we're going to loop through it again. We're going to say if this slot is empty, the closest slot to 1 is empty. Then this slot is no longer empty because it's available, so it's going to be used. And then we're going to return that slot number that we just set the plant to, and also the true pool because it's being equipped, so we can update the visual stuff for that. So now we have a way for the scripts to be able to determine what's equipped and not, and now we just need to do the visual side of that. So back over to the client. We now know if the scripts at this certain point, we know for sure we have a slot, and we know whether it's been equipped or not. So if it is being equipped, then local slot is equal to character select, wait for child frame, wait for child equip bar, and it's actually just this right here. So you can just copy and paste this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look and see if there is plant info for this. And we don't have that reference, do we? Okay, up at modules, we're going to reference configuration. And then we're also going to reference the plant configuration, which can be configuration wait for child, no. Require configuration wait for child plants. So plant config, and then we're going to check if there's an item inside that table, because a module script is also a table. We're going to check if there's an item with the same name as our plant. And if we don't have that, then we can just return end. Now inside our plant module, inside our, specifically the configuration, inside replicated storage, with all of our data inside of it, we are going to, let me find that in my other game real quick. I changed it to plant list actually in this game, but it doesn't matter what it's named. So we will have another variable labeled display text, the cost of it, and the image label, which you can just use the same one inside the UI, copy and paste that, or you can write it down manually. The sunflower doesn't have an idle animation right now. Maybe I'll make one before the next tutorial and put that in the description. Now we can close out of that. Now what we can do is we can update this stuff. we're gonna set the slot, which is, of course, under the equip bar, the slot dot main dot image, which is actually going to be a part of, it's going to be a property of the image label, and that's going to be set to the plant info. Okay, plant info dot image, and then we're going to reference the character text, the text label. It's going to be equal to plant info dot display text. And then the cost text is equal to cost colon space dot dot plant info dot cost. Finally, we can turn the visibility on that. I have it set to where there's a background. So this is also the background, the gray box. And you can turn on the image label, that way you can't click it if it's not currently visible. Now, if it's not being equipped, if the plant is already equipped and we're unequipping it, then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing right here, but else if, yeah, let me specify that. We're going to turn visibility off, and then set all three of these to absolutely nothing. Let's turn visibility off first. And that is all of those done. Every single equip button for our game. Huh. Oh wait, require. I don't. Why did it autocorrect to replicated storage? Hopefully you caught that. I'll probably add a text box to like warn you on the screen back then. Okay, now this works. Yep. And as you can see, if you well, that works. Why does this not? I'll check that real quick just by a simple print clicked. Oh wait, what am I doing? after we actually click it, we need to check that. So it does render. Why is it not equipping though? Oh wait, okay. See, this is why names need to be perfect. Here in the scrolling frame, we have the F in sunflower not capitalized, but under the plant folder, we actually do have it capitalized. So I'll just swap that to be uncapitalized. And then something's going wrong with this. And that's because it's a simple capitalization error. There we go. Now it also does and 178. When we equip the plant, we can go ahead and we'll just print the table. That way we can test to make sure it updates on the server side too. Yep, slot 1 sunflower. Slot 1 sunflower, slot 2 pea shooter. I equip the sunflower. It's not equipped. You can unequip the pea shooter too and re-equip it into slot 1. Right, so that does work. Perfect. Now here in the actual equip bar, which is under the character select equip bar specifically, so all of these, in each of these click buttons, we're going to add a script called unequip. Same ones I deleted earlier. It's going to be a short and sweet script. Actually, this is slot 1. And now we're going to request a unequip. So you can just copy and paste one of these remote events and rename it to request unequip. Actually, I'll just paste that name in. Again, a remote event, not a function. Oh, wait, I'm wrong. Never mind. It is a remote function. So, okay. So, duplicate request equip, rename it to request unequip with capital U, no capital E. And then we'll invoke that server, and then we'll pass through the slot. And then if it's a success, then we'll set the image to nothing. We'll set the text to nothing. The cost text to nothing. And we'll turn off its visibility. So now you can just copy and paste that script into each slot. You just have to make sure you change the slot number inside the script to match the actual slot number. Is this the most ideal way to do this? I don't know, probably not. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. Now inside our server-side script, when we get this request unequipped, we're going to connect that to a function. And then we're just going to go ahead and return player world data dot unequip slot, player user ID, and the slot. That's what we're sending into the function, not what we're returning. We're returning whatever this replies with. And then actually, we're going to head over to that function. And it's the same thing right here. We're going to copy, paste that over. Wait, that's too much. Copy and paste this. But we don't need to send both nils back, only one. No, actually, we're gonna return false. And right here, we're gonna pass through the slot, because that's what we're getting. So, I guess I typed that wrong back when we were first making these two functions. This one requires the plant, this one requires the slot number. So if we have a table and the slot actually has something in it, we'll just set that to nothing. And then we'll return true, it was unequipped. We can go ahead and test this inside our game. We can equip it up here. If we click up here, it unequips. And we can re-equip it. Perfect. Now we have a equip and unequip system working. And I no longer need to use any scripting inside this complex mess. Module scripts are very handy, but they can get complex fast. But still more secure than what I was doing with the folders in my old kit. I mean, at least this is way more secure, probably. Now there's one last thing we're gonna do, and that's we're gonna start the game. So up here, after the update function, at the very top of these functions, right below the GUI function tag or title, we're gonna do local function run game. We're gonna get the player details, and also the level details, which we don't actually need these. I just want to go ahead and add this for the next tutorial. So I'll show you how to set up your level information. So when you click start, what we're going to do first is we're going to get the player details. We're going to add one more event function, and we're going to name that Quest Start. And then we're going to invoke that. So over here, for the request start, we already made this function earlier. We're just gonna return player world data dot get data player dot user ID. I don't know why I may say, oh yeah, we're gonna request start when we're just getting data instead. It doesn't matter though. We're gonna return all of this, sorry, we're gonna return all of this. I don't know why we're requesting a start, or why I labeled all of this like this. You can label it differently if you want, but what we're basically doing is we're checking to see if the player has plants already equipped. And you don't even have to do this if you don't want to. If you want them to be able to play without plants, that's totally fine. They're gonna lose, but that's totally fine. So if they have equipped data, so if we don't have player details, or if we don't have equipped data, we're gonna return end. And I don't do if or, I do specifically if we don't have this, return end. If we don't have this, return end. These are two separate if-then statements. Oh. Player details, equip data. We're gonna create a float, or not, a empty variable. Now we're gonna loop through the equip data. So if we have a plant equipped and it's not locked, or if it's not nothing and it's not locked, then we have a plant. And if we have a plant, that's great news, because we can do currently tweening is equal to true, and then we can spawn function tween character select, wait for child frame, udim2.new 1.5, comma 0, comma 0.5, comma 0, and then 1.4 seconds. And then since that's a spawn function, we're going to end too. Don't forget the end at the end. And then we're going to wait. Task.wait 0.5 seconds. And we're going to tween the blur, that way you can actually see again. Just gonna be lighting, wait for child blur, actually. We'll just go and spawn a new function, and then we'll just task.wait 1.5 seconds works. And we'll do currently tweening is equal to false. Here's what we'll do. Currently tweening false. Character select wait for child frame dot visible is equal to false. Main menu wait for child frame is equal to false. Dot visible is equal to false. And we're going to use the equip bar so we can keep that. And now after that we're going to just take this. And instead of blurring to 10, we're going to blur to 0. So we're going to get rid of the blur. Level details is equal to nothing if we have inside configuration. We're going to add a new module script. And we're going to name that levels. And I'm just gonna copy and paste what I'm doing for it. But how I have it broken up is I have world 1, level 1, and then inside that I spawn a zombie. I'm gonna wait 1 second before I spawn the next one, and I'll wait 1.5 seconds. And then this is gonna separate the waves. And it'll take a bit of logic to figure out what the script is trying to tell the other script to do. And I might change how I do this. I don't know. Maybe I'll separate it into waves just by table instead. So like wave 1 is equal to this. That might be easier actually. I'll decide when I eventually get to scripting it. Anyway, at the top, we're going to get the level module. And then down here, if level module world dot player details, so world without the 1, and then we're going to check player details dot world, since we already have that. If that does not equal nil, or if that equals nil, we're going to return. Otherwise, level details is equal to level module world dot dot this. And we'll just copy the square brackets and change that to level. And then if that returns with nothing, we'll just return end. Now, if we have everything, if we get to this point, we should have everything. We'll send over the player details, and we'll also send over the level details. And then we'll just go and check that by printing the player details and the level details. See, we can't start it without plants equipped, but now that we do, we can start it. Oh. Level module, not level. Equip plant. Okay, what's going wrong now? Oh, why am I need more sleep, man. Run game, not run service, run game. Good for you if you caught that, by the way. Okay, we don't have level details. Why not? We do have that. Oh, and also, if level details equal nil, then return in. Level details should equal to world dot dot player details dot world. Oh, it's because we... I don't know why I set... Oh, wait, never mind. I thought I set level to 0. Okay, well, let's just find out. Print... Oh, wait. It's because I set it to 0 in here, right? Yeah, right here. But that should be... That should already be changing because we added that one remote event. So, let's just find out. Zero, so it's not updating. Okay, in that case, when we click play, select level, we're going to fire that. We're going to send over the world and level, which are 1 and 1, right here. Select level, okay, that's why we haven't scripted that. We'll just do, under that, swap level player.userid. We'll send the world and we'll send the level. Perfect. That should fix it. And we already have that scripted, right? Yeah. So back down here, we can get rid of this print and we'll build a check. Because it'll send the level details. There we go. And one final function to script. But it's not a small one. Now what we want to do is, just like what we did with looping through these plant frames inside the character select, we're going to do the same thing. So for I is equal to 1, comma, number of so we're only going to make it to where they can click the ones that we actually have equipped inside our data. So if it's neither of these, that means we so if it's not nil and if it's not locked, then we undoubtedly have a plant equipped. Or something's going wrong. Like a hacking. But it'll just completely break if that's the case, so I'm not too worried. Slot with no number, .i, which is going to add the number on top. So if there's plant info, then well, we can just copy and paste this. So we have the slot, and then we'll change the character text, cost text, and image. And then if the player tries to equip a plant, then we're going to change the selected plant to be the name of that plant. So basically what we're doing, because I haven't been explaining this, we're going to loop through all of the player details, every single plant they have equipped. We're going to look through the slots inside our actual, not the character select equip bar, but the equip bar for the main actual round. And we're going to loop through, find those slots, and then we're going to update those so they show what we have equipped. And then if you click on that, you're trying to actually, use the plant. So the selected plant is going to be that. And then we're going to go ahead and just tween that equip bar in. This function wasn't really necessary, honestly. It only saves a tiny bit. And then we're going to delete this later, but in-game is equal to true. So now, okay, we have a little bug. And that's just because we forgot to end this function. So make sure you put end at the end of your functions, because that's kind of important. Now we can equip these two. And as you can see, you can click the sunflower and you can place the sunflower. Of course, there's still no cap on it, so you can place unlimited of those. You can't see it, but they're stacking. That's why there's so many up here. But you can swap plants now, so you can put the pea shooter down. But again, you can place a ton of those because we haven't added the checks to make sure that you don't do that. That's definitely going to be next tutorial, actually. And of course, sunflower doesn't move because I haven't made the animation yet. But yeah, that's going to be it for this third tutorial on this series. I have a lot of editing to do. It's 1:30 at night. Yippee. Bye.